introduce our speaker, Ms. Rachel Wilson Thibodeau. She has her own business, Swag Strategy Solutions, and she's going to give y'all some great tips on personal branding. So I'm going to turn it over to her.
Thank you, Sherry.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. I have to say, you guys look pretty perky because usually I'm a little concerned when I do meetings after lunch because people are not as alert. Y'all look pretty, so that's a good thing. Again, I am Rachel Wilson Thibodeau. Yes, I drove in from Houston, but I am from Fort Worth, so I'm essentially home. But you guys may have heard some of us almost floated away over the last few days, a lot of flooding, and I'm joking about it, but it is serious, especially for some Houstonians, so keep us in your thoughts and prayers. But happy to be with you today, and we are going to talk branding and brand strategy. And I will give you the opportunity for questions at the end of the presentation, although if something really jumps out at you, if it sounds like I'm speaking Greek, are there any Greek people here? Okay, I'm just checking because I said that in one presentation and a guy was in the audience and he came to offense to me using Greek as an example, so no offense. Okay, but if it sounds like I'm speaking a foreign language, go ahead and ask your question because I want to make sure that we get your questions answered. So, what is branding? What is branding all about? What is a brand? And by the way, I do like interaction, so I will be calling on you here and there, so just get ready for it. And I do like to have fun as well, so this will not be, a stuffy presentation. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Here. Yeah. What do you think about when you hear the term brand?
I think about what makes the makeup or what makes a person or company stand out.
What makes a person or company stand out? Okay. Anyone else? What do you think about when you hear brand? Yes.
I think about loyalty being connected to a brand. Because then, if it's a brand that I'm familiar with or I admire or like, then I'm going to stay loyal to it.
Okay, so you think loyalty. Okay. Well, I just wanted to get a feel for you guys' thoughts, because there's a lot of information out there about brands, branding, and I know after a while they can just kind of run together. There's a lot of confusion surrounding what a brand is, what branding is, and we are going to talk about the distinction between brand and branding. See, there's a distinction between the two. A brand, and this is the simplest definition I've heard, and I think it's one of the best definitions actually, is a brand is a person, place, or thing. It's a noun. So essentially that means anyone, just about anything can be a brand. So we tend to think, when we think of brands, we tend to think of these big mega brands. Brands that we're very familiar with, that's a part of many of our lives, if not all of our lives. Starbucks, or Coca-Cola, or Google, or Facebook. But you are a brand. You are a brand. Because essentially, the brand starts within. What your brand is about is really just that. It is what you represent. It's what you want to be known for. And I'm going to share a few questions with you a bit later to help you get even more clarity surrounding your own brand. Now, sometimes people want to know, right? Inquiring minds want to know what exactly is a brand. And sometimes you get that reaction. I've had conversations with people and start talking about brand strategy, and yeah, their eyes just kind of glaze over and it's like, what? And so, if nothing else, I want you guys to take away that a brand is not complicated. It shouldn't be complicated. It's not complicated. It's really about what you want to represent. So, questions. I'm the queen of questions. I don't have a problem asking questions. I hope you guys realize that questions are not a bad thing. And so those questions I wanted to share with you, and I have 3 of them that will really help you get clear about your own brand. Question number 1, what do you most want to be known for? What do you most, I emphasize most, want to be known for? Because here's the thing, some of us, we have different interests, different passions, we're multifaceted, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but in terms of your brand, and if you really want to stand out, you have to narrow that down, at least some. You can't be known for 10 different things. If you're known for 10 different things, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be known as being the go-to person, the expert, the standout in 10 different things. So you have to determine, what do I most want to be known for? And that applies in life in general. That can be a personal thing. It certainly can be a professional thing, whether you work for an organization or whether you work for yourself. You have to determine what you most want to be known for. And then the second question, how do you want your audience to feel when experiencing your brand? How do you want your audience to feel? Now, who is your audience? Well, that depends. Your audience could be your coworkers, your boss, your colleagues. If you are a writer, your audience are your readers, certainly a writer or a blogger. You have to determine who is your audience, but what do you want them to take away? How do you want them to feel? What kind of result do you want them to have? Do you want them to feel empowered? This lady said she tends to feel loyalty. When she thinks of a brand, she thinks about loyalty. Well, that's a great thing. You want your brand to be a brand that is worthy of loyalty. So I really want you to think about 2 or 3 things, or 2 or 3 answers to that second question in terms of how you want people to feel. What kind of experience do you want them to feel? And then in the last question, looking at question 2, or after you've answered question 2, then ask yourself, am I projecting that? Whatever I want my audience to feel, whatever experience I want them to have, am I demonstrating that? Because let's say, for example, you want to be a financial advisor. And so you want your audience, your clients, you want them to be financially savvy. You want them to be financially aware. You want them to be out of debt. Well, if you're not out of debt, or if you're not really financially savvy, there's a problem there. That's a disconnect. So whatever it is that you want your audience to experience, you should be projecting that very thing. And then lastly, oh, that is a different question actually. That should be, I apologize for that. The last question should be, what is your favorite brand? What is your favorite brand and why? Why is that your favorite brand? And it could be more than one. Maybe you have a couple of favorite brands. Now if you have 5, again, I'm going to ask you to kind of narrow that down and focus on 2, maybe 3 at the most. Why are those your favorite brands? And I want you to really think about that. So the other really important thing in terms of your brand and knowing what people are going to say when you're not around, because that's the whole objective, and that is what represents a solid brand. When you're not even around, but people are saying great things about your brand. They're talking about your brand in a positive way. Now, get this. If they're not talking about your brand at all, that can be just as bad as if they're saying something negative. So don't think necessarily, well, they're not saying anything bad, so that's fine. But if they're not saying anything, then you have to really determine, well, are you relevant? Do you matter? Does your brand matter to them? So a really great way of doing that is being authentic. authentic. And there is this big thing out in the marketplace about authentic branding. That has really grown over the last few years. Are you authentic? Well, what exactly does that mean? Because that's one of those buzzwords that's thrown around a lot. Authentic, authenticity, an authentic brand. And that essentially means that you are being true to yourself. You're being true to your brand. To do that, though, you have to really know what your brand is about. You can't be true to something that you're not really clear about. So that's why I posed those questions first and foremost and gave you essentially the definition of a brand, because if you don't really know what your brand is about and what you represent, what you want to be known for, it's difficult to be true to that. So you always want to be authentic. And you want to find kind of a balance, strike a balance between transparency and still maintaining your sense of integrity and somewhat of a comfort level. I say somewhat because sometimes it may require you really being authentic, may require you to kind of step out of your comfort zone, okay? And being authentic is not Facebook famous. Has anyone heard that term, Facebook famous? Maybe, yeah. Well, Facebook famous is all about being famous on Facebook, okay? That's your friends, or it could be anyone, it could be your family. But people who you see on Facebook and they're always having a great time, and it seems like they live the best lives, and they go to the best parties, and they drive the best cars. They drive $100,000 cars, but they work at Wendy's. I mean, it's all of that, and you end up envying them, and you're like, well, I wish I could do that, and they're in Hawaii, or it looks like they're in Hawaii, and you're here, and so it's just, they're always, yeah. Not always true. Not always true. So you don't just want to be Facebook famous. Real authenticity and having an authentic brand is presenting yourself honestly. It is showing that you don't just have to portray a certain type of person or a certain type of brand. That really is who you are. So you don't want the whole Facebook famous thing. And then, are you a brand cheater? Are you cheating on your brand? I love that saying there. Never do what you say you're going to do, so I stopped listening. Yeah. If you really think about that, you probably know, or you may know somebody like that who fits that description. Or maybe you fit that description. Maybe you're doing that with yourself. So it's not just about other people. It's not just about you don't keep your word to other people. Do you keep your word to yourself? This is another big thing in terms of an authentic brand. So think about it. If you never keep the promises and the things that you say you're going to do, even for yourself, if you say, I am going to study for that test. I'm going to start studying 3 weeks before the test. Well, if you know you're not going to do that, your mind, your unconscious mind, subconscious mind is going to be like, you know. No, you're not. I'm going to pull all-nighter. No, you're not. Yeah, I'm going to spend the time necessary to prepare for this interview. I'm going to go over my resume to find. No, not. So we have to work at being true to ourselves as well as being true to other people. That really demonstrates an authentic brand. Now, as a result of that and being authentic and people knowing what they're going to get with you, that's how you kind of get to that loyalty. That's how you get to raving fans, if you will. How many of you have an Apple, at least one Apple product? Okay. How do you feel about your Apple product? Or products? She loves it. Love it. And one of the reasons you love it is you know what to expect. You know what you're going to get from Apple. But some of you, I see some of you Droid users. Some of you are looking mad. I don't care about no doggone Apple. I like them both. I love Apple as a brand, but I also have Droid products. But the thing is, you know what you're going to get, and at least in most cases, that's a lot. It's excellence. And so that is where that comes from. And whether it's within an organization, whether it's your own business, that is what you want. You want people to know what they're going to get from you. They know that you're a game changer. They know what you stand for, what you represent. Now, these are examples. I mentioned Apple before, and a couple of other examples of great brands, solid brands, and kind of those mega brands that I was talking about before, but we can learn from these brands. Coca-Cola, Nike, Apple. All of these brands are known for certain things, and they're at a point where they don't even have to work as hard to get that brand loyalty and to get customers and what have you, because they have that type of foundation, a really solid foundation. And something else all these brands have in common is they've pretty much positioned themselves in a certain way. If you think about Nike, for example, well, what is Nike's tagline? Just do it. Does everyone not know that? Does everyone practically on the planet not know that? And even if you're not a fan of Nike products, when you hear that or when you see that, how does it make you feel? Just do it. How does it make you feel?
I mean, I feel like it's just simple. I think
It's simple.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else?
Empowered.
Empowered.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
It makes me like want to get up and go do something.
Just want to get up and go. And it's designed to have that kind of reaction. I mean, it is an empowering statement. And so I want you to think about that in terms of your own brand. You also need a positioning statement, if you will. You need an empowering statement. It could be a mission statement. It could be your own personal tagline. Businesses and big brands are not the only ones that can have a tagline. So I want you to think about that type of messaging. So a bit more about positioning. This is really how you set yourself apart from everyone else. There are different ways that you can position yourself, position your brand. Now, what do I mean by positioning? That's really taking the very best of your attributes, what you have to offer, the value you have to offer, and leveraging that, maximizing that. Maybe you are really known as a connector. You bring people together. You can introduce one person to another person that really need to connect, and then they can form a partnership, form great relationships. If you are known for that, that's something that kind of comes naturally to you, then you should leverage that. That can be how you position your brand. Maybe you are a problem solver. You know, when there's problems, everyone else around you is freaking out and they're like, what do I do? And you are just focused on solving the problem. That's all you care about, and you do it. You go on to solve the problem. You can position yourself that way. And this becomes important certainly when you're within an organization, as well as if you have any type of entrepreneurial pursuits, if you are creative in any way, perhaps you are a writer, perhaps you are a speaker, perhaps you're an artist, a photographer. There are ways that you can position yourself, and you should position yourself, because there's a lot of competition out there, guys, and it's just increasing. It is absolutely increasing. So if you really want to set yourself apart from everyone else, because you want to be memorable. The best brands, the greatest brands, they are memorable. So nothing else. You want to be memorable. You don't want to be just like everyone else. So positioning is a way that you can do that. I mentioned being a connector, being a problem solver. It could be a number of other ways. Maybe you work really well with a specific group of people. How is anyone in education? here? Okay, education. Are you planning to teach?
Yes.
Okay, so as a teacher, and we know, of course, there's a number of teachers. So what will set you apart from all the other teachers? What's going to make you really stand out to, and probably your students, this is probably who you most want to stand out to, and perhaps the parents as well. But you have to think about, what do you offer? What is it about you that really is a good fit with your profession, and how you can really maximize that? Maybe you are very good with special needs children. Maybe you are very good when children are kind of losing it or freaking out. If we're talking small children, hopefully that's not happening with older children, but you never know. So whatever it is, you really need to evaluate that. This is something that often we don't really take the time, we don't really pay attention to, because we kind of just go about our way, go through everyday life, and we do what we need to do, and we don't always think about what I call your swag factor. What is your swag factor? Your swag factor is what is unique about you. What is your brilliance? What is your value that you bring to the world? So you want to maximize that, and that's how you want to position yourself. And then another benefit of that is you can become the go-to person within your department, your company, your industry. And that is really where you start to see a lot more benefits. You see financial benefits, you see benefits in terms of your status, respect, because people look to you. They will come to expect certain things from you. And that's a lot what a brand is about as well. It's about an expectation. What people expect. What is the promise that you're giving them? And so that's really what you want, because that can translate into more dollars, again, more respect. If you're looking to get promoted quickly, maybe you don't want to, you join a company and maybe the usual career path is 5 years before you get promoted. Well, maybe you decide, I don't want to work 5 years before I get promoted. I want to do this in 2.5 years. I want to get promoted in 3 years. But how are you going to do that? You can't decide, well, I want to fast track this, but then not put forth the fast track effort. So this is where branding really comes in. And let me clarify brand and branding. A brand, and we talked about what a brand is, that really starts from the inside. It should start from the inside, because that's what you are about. That's what you represent. The mistake a number of people make is they tend to focus completely and too quickly on branding. Branding is really about the external. That's what people see. That's the appearance. If we're talking about a business or an organization, for example, that's the logo, that's the website, business cards. As an individual, well, your clothes, how you look, that's important, but that's not the most important thing. You want your brand to be solid first and foremost, and you want to be clear about what your brand is about before you focus a lot on the branding. Now, the branding, it is important. I mean, that's just like when you're interviewing for a job. When you walk into that interview, you're not showing, I mean, people can't see what's on the inside. They see what's on the outside. So you do want to pay attention to your dress and your attire and how you talk and speak and what have you. But just know, ultimately, who you are, what you represent from the inside out, that is the most important thing. And that's what eventually they're going to get to. Because you may look great in the interview, you may do great in the interview, but then you have to deliver, okay? And we kind of touched on that as well. Strong brands lead to a strong bottom line. Again, let's just look at Apple or any of those companies that we were just talking about, Coca-Cola, all of Nike. all of those brands are multi-billion, with a B, billion-dollar brands because of all the people that they have attracted, all of their raving fans, their customers. And so likewise, as an individual, and I know it can be kind of icky to think of ourselves as an asset. We're not assets in the same sense of money or what have you, but you are an asset. You want to be an asset to your company. You want to be an asset to the marketplace, to your audience, because otherwise they don't really have any use. They will move on to someone else. And so you always want to know that there is a connection between a strong brand and a strong bottom line. Those of you who want to make money, you want to make a good living, and there's nothing wrong with that, then that is something that should be in the forefront of your mind all the time. How am I going to set myself apart? How am I going to be memorable? How am I going to become essentially irreplaceable? That's how you want to think. And that can be tough. Now there's probably a debate out there that no one or nothing is really irreplaceable, at least in the professional sense. Certainly in the personal sense. I mean, I like to think I'm irreplaceable to my husband and my mother and father and things like that. But in terms of a company, an organization, it's a little tougher. You have to work harder at it because there's always someone else, at least typically, waiting to take your place. So again, that's why you have to realize a strong brand leads to a strong bottom line. Now, I want to share with you guys, and this may not be news to some of you, but a great tool, a powerful tool that you can use to build your brand, to nurture your brand, is LinkedIn. How many of you are on LinkedIn now? Okay, that's great. Okay, so several of you are on LinkedIn. Now, I said you're on, or I asked, are you on LinkedIn? Are you using LinkedIn? Yeah. Kind of, maybe. Okay. And that's not that uncommon. I really want to sell you guys on LinkedIn, at least for those of you who may need selling, because I happen to know LinkedIn is not as exciting, at least to some people, and to me it is, because I use LinkedIn a lot in my business. I help my clients with LinkedIn, but in terms of it being fun, it being sexy, LinkedIn is not necessarily fun or sexy. It's not Instagram, it's not Facebook, there's no live stream like Periscope, although not yet. There's talk of that. There's talk of several other platforms jumping into the live stream arena, so that will be interesting. But LinkedIn is very powerful in terms of building your brand. And not just even from an employer perspective, it's just building your brand in general, because you may leave college with a job, or you may have a job before you even leave college, or any of you are in grad school, you may already have the job, but the thing is still competitive. So we're in a world now where we don't necessarily, or we can't necessarily expect to stay put for the next 20 years or the next 30 years. So you always have to be mindful of that competition. So you want to build your brand and nurture your brand independent of an organization. So let me just share some interesting things about LinkedIn with you that you may or may not be aware of. You're probably not aware of all of this. Currently there are over 400 million users on LinkedIn. About a quarter of those are on LinkedIn every month. Okay. The fastest growing group on LinkedIn are recent college grads. Fastest growing group, recent college grads. 2/3 of LinkedIn users are outside of the US. So if you are open to, if you've considered, if you were maybe considering expanding globally. Maybe you're eyeing a global employer. Maybe you're looking to live in another country eventually. That's something you want to be aware of. The average income of a LinkedIn user is $100,000. That is higher than Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Okay? 41% of millionaires use LinkedIn. And if maybe you're trying to reach Washington insiders, you want to connect with people in Washington, 80% of Washington insiders are on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn has groups. Those of you who are on Facebook, you are probably familiar with Facebook groups. There is a group for everything. Groups are almost like apps. Whatever you want, there's a group for it. There's an app for it. And so there are groups on LinkedIn as well. And you can join up to 50 groups on LinkedIn. Now some of you may be thinking, why the heck would I want to join that many groups? That sounds like a lot. Well, because groups are another way for you to connect with people. They're another way to get in front of people, often key decision makers, and the very people who you want to connect with. So these are some really interesting stats about LinkedIn. But one of the best things about LinkedIn is the publishing feature, which is also called Pulse. Do any of you blog? Any bloggers? And I mean just blog, not necessarily having your own blog, but do you want to blog? Okay. Well, I think you should consider blogging, definitely. And you can blog on LinkedIn now. This is something that was opened up. It was gradually opened up. Initially, it was opened up to just a few people, and then they expanded it to everyone. So you are actually able to blog on LinkedIn, write articles on LinkedIn, and the benefit of this, and what I was going to say, if anyone had their own blog, now unless you have built that blog up and you already have a great audience and you have thousands, tens of thousands, a big audience for your blog, LinkedIn can be a great alternative because you have an audience. You kind of have a ready-made audience there and a professional audience. So if you are really looking to get seen, if you're looking to get the attention of key decision makers, hiring managers, recruiters, blog on LinkedIn. Now, am I telling you to write about anything, any and everything? No. It does need to be, there needs to be a strategy involved. And so let's say, for example, actually, let me get this gentleman. What kind of, if you don't mind sharing, describe your dream job.
Development and implementation of advanced biosensors and display technology. Like you have fitness trackers, but next generation.
Next generation developing biosensors?
Yeah.
Okay. So what industry is that? Is it IT
Biotech.
or biotech? Okay. So is it safe to say you would want to attract either a small business within that industry or perhaps a corporation, maybe a pharmaceutical company or something similar to that? So you would want to write about something, of course, within that arena on that topic. It doesn't have to be extremely involved or even that long, but something to demonstrate, and it could be a few ways you can do this. One, your passion about that you are, what you're excited about, what you like about that particular topic, or then some information that they may not even know. Maybe something you have found out through research and development or what have you. So there's different ways you can do this. And because of who's on LinkedIn, we see who is on LinkedIn, and there are thousands of employers and companies on LinkedIn, as well as small businesses. And so all you really need is the right person to see your article. So that is one way that you can do that. And I think That intimidates some people when they hear that about blogging or writing. Often it's like, well, I'm not a big writer, or I don't know what to write about, or I don't have the time, because they're thinking it has to be like a 1,000-word article or something. It does not, absolutely does not have to be that. And now, because LinkedIn has really evolved, you are able to add video, you're able to add audio, you're able to do slide share. So if you have a presentation, if you want to put together a presentation, again, it doesn't have to be long, it could be 5 slides, but 5 content-rich slides. All of those things you can now add to your LinkedIn profile. So it's definitely something that you want to take advantage of, you want to leverage. And in addition to LinkedIn, I touched on it just a bit earlier, live streaming. Is anyone on Periscope? What about Facebook Live? Anyone using Facebook? Do y'all know about those? Okay. So those are live streaming platforms, which of course just means that you are live. You are able to talk to people live and they can respond to you. And it is certainly a way of getting out there. It can be a little scary. I know some people who are, kind of like, I don't really know if I want to do that. But this can be a great way of getting your brand across, growing your brand, and people getting to know you better. So it's all in the way you present yourself. So you want to keep those platforms in mind. Yes?
The Periscope that you're talking about, how do you spell that?
It's Periscope. And
Is it a platform that you're saying that you can do live?
yeah, and it's actually an app. It's something that you can download on your phone or your mobile device. So it's pretty easy. Periscope is actually owned by Twitter. So you do have to have a Twitter account to use Periscope. But I mentioned that because I use Periscope a lot. I know a number of other people who use it. And some great things have happened with Periscope. It's still a new platform. Periscope started last, I think, March, so right around 1 year. And I know people who have gotten speaking gigs. I know people who have gotten jobs. I know people who have gotten customers through Periscope because they're going on and pretty consistently, that's the other thing, they're going on and they're talking to their audience, and it's a way even to build an audience. And they're talking about what other people, their particular group who they're trying to reach, what they want to hear about, what they want to know about. So that is something else just to think about in terms of different tools, and especially with technology that you want to take advantage of. Because again, the marketplace is noisy, the marketplace is competitive, so you always have to be finding ways to set yourself apart. And I would really encourage those of you who are, even if you're a pretty good writer, you don't necessarily even have to be excellent or spectacular as a writer. If you are a pretty good writer, blogging can really be beneficial because that is how you can share your content, your opinions. And if it's something related to your field, the field you're in or the field you want to be in, that can be powerful. So just keep that in mind. So, this is what I want to share with you lastly. I remember being a college student. I remember being new to the workplace, the workforce. I know it can be scary, just like a lot of other things can be scary. But most of the time, I will say, much of the time, we kind of psych ourselves out. We kind of build up our fears, and usually it's not half as bad as we built it up to be. And that applies to a number of things. That can be an interview. I know some people don't feel they interview well. They get really, really nervous about interviewing. I know people who don't like to speak in person or speak in public speaking. Actually, public speaking is the second fear only to death. Did y'all know that?
Wow.
Yeah. So basically, there are some people that, I really think there's some people who fear public speaking more than death. Like, I have a colleague, an old colleague, who used to say he'd rather die than speak. So it just gives you an idea of the fear out there. And for one, obviously, you're not alone if you have that fear or any other fear. But again, just know it's not as bad as you think it is or how you may perceive it to be. And getting past that fear, getting out of your comfort zone is where you want to be. If you want to remain comfortable, if you never want to step out of that box, perhaps that you're in, you're not going to go very far. So I just want you to keep that in mind. So that, guys, just want to share how you can stay connected with me. I am on Twitter and Periscope as Swag Strategist, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. And I did mention it before. Swag, it's not just a cool name. I think it's a cool name. I get lots of compliments on it as well. But it's not just a cool name. It is an acronym that stands for Strategic Women Achieve Growth. Strategic Women Achieve Growth. Because I work primarily with women entrepreneurs, not all women, but that's my target, as well as what I call sidepreneurs. And a sidepreneur, and we're seeing more and more of those, a sidepreneur is someone who has a full-time job, but they also run a business. They run a business part-time. Now, they may or may not want to run that business full-time. I tend to work with those who do want to run their business full-time, so I help them in making that transition. But that may not be the case for everyone. That may not be the case for you, and that's okay. I see people all the time working full-time jobs because, hey, there are benefits with having a job, but they also want another stream of income. And so that's something else I definitely want to leave with you in terms of your brand and in terms of just being competitive and your mindset. It's perfectly okay to be entrepreneurial, whether you're actually an entrepreneur or not. Because being entrepreneurial is a mindset. That's about you taking charge, you taking ownership of your career, you becoming kind of your own CEO. You realizing that, hey, the buck stops here. And you pursuing perhaps other opportunities and having multiple streams of income. Nothing at all wrong with that. So with that, are there any other questions?
How do you use Periscope to promote your brand specifically?
I use Periscope to talk about the things that I tend to coach and consult about. So I talk about LinkedIn, I talk about brand strategy and ways to grow your brand, getting clear about your brand, networking. A number of things kind of fall under the whole brand and marketing. Talk about marketing as well. But yeah, I get on there. On average, I'm on Periscope maybe about 3 or 4 times a week. Depending on what I have going on. If I'm launching something, then I'm on there more. Some people, and I'll tell you, the people I see who are most successful, or they seem to be most successful, but some of them I know personally, they're on there every day. I mean, they are super consistent. I know some people who are on there multiple times a day. Now, I sometimes question that because it's like, what else are you doing? But they're on there a lot. They're pretty consistent. So yeah, I mean that's what I do. It's basically sharing content. I know people, and I have a few clients even. For one, I have a stylist client, and she started periscoping her doing hair. She started, showing how she's doing hair, what she's doing, the products she's doing, and she got some business from that. I mean, that could apply to a photographer, to a graphic designer. I mean, there's different things you can do because you have an audience right there, and they're seeing you live. This is why live streaming is coming to even have an advantage over, say, YouTube. And we all know, I mean, YouTube is huge. But there is talk that at some point, whether it's Periscope, whether it's Facebook Live, because now that's the newest live stream that Facebook has offered, and of course in competition, in competing with Periscope, that at some point, I mean, that may take over YouTube because that live action there. You know, YouTube, of course, are videos, recorded videos, but you're in the moment with Periscope and platforms like that.
Do you usually schedule the time with your audience that you'll be on that time, or you just?
I don't always. Occasionally I do. There are some people who do. I mean, they're a bit more regimented with it. Like and you see people actually treating it kind of like a TV show. I mean, there are people who are like, I scope Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I scope Monday through Friday at 8 o'clock. I don't do that because my schedule does not necessarily, I consider that though, I'm not ruling it out, but no, I usually don't. I tend to do it around the same times, which is usually kind of around lunch, and sometimes late because I tend to be a night owl. I mean, you can jump on Periscope at 3 in the morning and people will jump on your broadcast because it's global.
Thank you.
Yes.
Whenever you do those live videos, but it keeps a track so people can actually go back and see pre-recorded information, or is it like live and then it's gone?
Good question. Because I've heard, and I'm not on Snapchat. I'm not a Snapchat expert. I've heard Snapchat videos disappear like immediately or almost immediately. With Periscope, they are available. The replays are available for 24 hours. Now, you as the broadcaster actually can change that. If you don't want them to be available, you can, there's something in your settings where you can change that. And some people do that because some people are starting to sell their scopes. They are providing that much content. People are doing like trainings on Periscope, and so they're selling them, or they're kind of repurposing that content. But yeah, typically the replay is available for 24 hours.
Are we seeing like Periscope and Facebook's live stream taking away the market share that YouTube live streaming has? Because YouTube has plenty of live video options.
I don't think it is taking the market share now, but if things continue and if the kind of growth that we've seen on Periscope, Periscope was the first social media platform to reach 1 million users the fastest. They reached 1 million in, I think, less than 30 days.
Wow.
Facebook didn't even achieve that. YouTube didn't achieve that. So if you continue to see that kind of growth, who knows? But right now, YouTube is still kind of, the big boys in terms of most video, but there's competition.
Do they have options for monetizing on those streaming platforms?
Well, that's really up to you. Right now, if you're asking, does Periscope, does Facebook Live have ways of monetizing like YouTube?
Right.
No, not that I'm aware of, because I know, of course, with YouTube, there's the advertising and partners and that kind of thing. That's not available yet. I don't know for sure, that could be coming. Right now, on a platform like Periscope, that's really up to you as the broadcaster. And I can tell you plenty of people are monetizing their content on their own. Anything else? Yes.
I've heard LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn, you're the second person to really advocate for LinkedIn. But I don't see, of course, you gave the resources, yeah, but I haven't seen how it was beneficial. Is this something that I have to I know I have to foster it and I have to be on it, but what does it mean that I have to reach out to those physically, to have to email those people that I'm linking on LinkedIn with? How is it beneficial?
Here's the thing, and I will answer how it benefits you. And for some, it benefits some more than others. That's true. But the thing is, you have to really determine what is your main objective. Who do you want to connect with? What do you want to do? Now, obviously, you're in education, you're looking to be a teacher, you are a teacher, but you have to kind of think down the road as well. What is something you may want to do 6 months or even 6 years from now? Because even if it's something 6 years down the road, you should start working on it now. You should start building it now, especially if it involves having an audience, if you need to connect with certain people. So LinkedIn is really about connection and about building relationships. It also allows you to reach certain people that you may not be able to reach normally, or perhaps even, or at least as easily. Because let's say, for example, you're looking to reach a superintendent, or you're looking for a mentor. Maybe you want a really great mentor, and not someone you already know. Maybe it's an influencer. It's someone in your industry, and you don't really know how to connect with them. You don't have their phone number, or, well, if they're on LinkedIn, you can connect with them on LinkedIn. I mean, there are CEOs, there's executives, there are celebrities on LinkedIn. Now, I know there are celebrities on other platforms, but it's a little different. The way LinkedIn is set up, I mean, it is very possible that you could get a response from the even key decision makers and high influencers. So it's really more about building relationships. It's really good for entrepreneurs, for small businesses, because there are so many small businesses on LinkedIn and professionals on LinkedIn. So if you are looking to reach professionals in any way, any professional group, again, leaders within certain industries, LinkedIn is a great platform for that. And if you want to become kind of an expert, if you want to be seen as an expert, LinkedIn is an awesome platform to do that, because again, you can blog, you can write on LinkedIn, you can share other content on LinkedIn, and you can connect with people who, again, you may not ordinarily would connect with. Anything else?
Oh, you can.
Rachel, I just have a comment and I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Okay.
With thinking about interviewing in the job search and thinking about branding, I would think that this is a great way to answer that question that comes up many times in the interview. Tell me about yourself. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well, let me make sure I understand your question. In how you answer that question?
Yes. Portraying
Yes.
your brand when you answer, tell me about yourself, and actually
Yes.
letting that shine throughout the interview.
Oh, absolutely.
As well.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important that you're clear on what your brand is about, what you represent, what you want to be known for, because that is what you want to get across with that question. And it's interesting you mentioned that, Sherry, because we were just talking about that. Me and a few friends of mine, we volunteer for an organization called Dress for Success, which I think is here as well. And we help prepare some of the ladies there for the interview process. And we were just saying, that question, that age-old question, tell me about yourself, is somewhat of a loaded question, because they're not asking for you to tell them from the time you popped out of the womb. They want to get to know a bit more about you, but really how it relates to that job and how you can benefit them, the value you bring to that position, to that company. So you really have to get in the mindset and kind of think strategically in interviews and how you're answering questions, because it's really not all of it. It is about you, but it's not. Yes, sir.
That's kind of a two-part question. How much importance do you place when you're advising people on owning the domain name that matches their name? Like for myself, JoshuaFernandez.com. And do you have any recommendations for trademark or patent development resources?
Well, I'm not a lawyer and I don't play one on television, but I will say it is a good idea to own your name as a domain, or own your domain. I own my name in all three names, Rachel Wilson Thibodeau. I do have that as a domain name. And in this day and age, it is just a good thing, because you just, even if you don't think necessarily you're going to do anything entrepreneurial, but it's something that you want to have, because someone could just get your name. They could use your name, and you may wonder, well, why would someone want to use mine? Oh, it happens. So it's good just in terms of kind of protecting your name as well as your brand. And then as far as trademarks and copyrights, you can really trademark something as soon as you put it out there. I mean, there's the little trademark symbol. You can create that. I mean, you can create that on a computer. On a PC, for example, I think it's Alt 0153 for a trademark. For the copyright, it's Alt 0169, I believe. So that's something that you can do just to put it out there and people know that that is trademarked content. If you want to go a step further though, and actually I think it is with the copyright, you actually have to register that. There is a process of registering that, through the Office of Patents or something with the government. And that's not necessarily a bad thing to do. It's not a requirement necessarily. It all depends on really what it is, what kind of content, your business, what have you.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anything else? Yes.
What have you found is the best strategy for in a networking opportunity when you're talking to people, how you represent your brands just in that short span of time talking to someone?
Well, that is a great question, and I was actually, it's kind of a good segue for actually a freebie I have for you guys. I try to come bearing gifts. This is a digital or virtual gift, if you will. I have a networking cheat sheet, how to be a rock star networker. Cheat sheet that you can get by, and I am also into mobile marketing. So if you text strategy to 24587, strategy to 24587, I will get that cheat sheet to you. Because networking is also something I talk a lot about, I coach people on. I'm a big advocate of networking. I know it is not everyone's favorite thing to do. Something I definitely recommend is whenever you go to a networking event, first and foremost, you want to have an objective. You want to know why you're going. There should be, again, get on strategy, there should be a strategy. That is, I would say, why a lot of people think that they don't get anything out of networking, because they just kind of do it haphazardly. They go to any kind of networking event and they're not really sure what they're looking to do, what they're really looking to achieve. So you want to know, even before you go, who do I most want to connect with? Because that will also determine whether or not you're even going to the right events. I mean, there's some places you don't need to be to network. If you're looking for a job, if you're in the job market and you're looking specifically to connect with hiring managers, decision makers, I mean, where you go where those people will be, and particularly in your industry. And then I also say, go prepared, and it's almost like a job interview. Always go to a networking event prepared with questions, at least 3 or 4 questions that you want to ask the other person. Now, some of these questions can be customized depending on who you're meeting, but you should really have a few go-to questions that you can ask just about anyone. And it may surprise you, I'll share a couple of them with you. It's not all about business. That's something else to think about. Even if it's a professional networking event, you don't have to be all about business, because keep in mind, people do business with, people hire, people partner with people they like. I mean, that helps anyway. You can be brilliant, you can be incredibly competent, but if you're just kind of a jerk, it can hurt you. So you want to have some questions prepared, and again, it could be something like, where would you rather be than here? It's one of my favorite questions. Where would you rather be? See, she smiled. That's kind of disarming. That's not a question, because again, you want to be memorable. You want your brand to be known. If you're going to a conference, if you're especially going to a big networking event, Well, the people you're meeting, they're meeting a lot of other people, sometimes hundreds of other people. What's going to make them remember you? Oh yeah, I remember, and they may even forget your name. That guy asked me, where would I rather be? That was a good question. That was a funny question, because I didn't want to be there. And that's the truth. A number of people that don't really want to be there. So you can ask them something like that. You can ask them, what's on your to-go list? Not your to-do list, your to-go list. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to travel? Is there anywhere that you haven't traveled that you would love to travel to? And that's a way of just kind of breaking the ice. That's more so when you're, introducing yourself or when you're approaching someone. Now, once you start talking, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. Once you're clear about your brand, what you want to represent, what you want to most be known for, well, then you structure or you frame the conversation as such, where that's what you're getting across. If you are in sales, for example, and this kind of speaks to the whole positioning thing. There are people out there who are great salespeople, but usually they're better at a certain part of sales than the whole sales process. Occasionally you run into someone who's just, they're just a superstar all around, but maybe you're really good at closing the sale. And that's what you want to be known for. That's how you want to position yourself, as the closer. So that's what you want to talk about. How I close this sale, how I usually close sales. I'm consistent, I follow up. It's all kind of a strategy. So one other thing I just want to share with you guys, if you do want any additional guidance, help, what have you, I do coaching on brand strategy on LinkedIn, some degree marketing. Certainly you can reach out to me. I did have a sign-in sheet, and I don't know if I took it out, but you have my contact information here. You can also, my cards, my business cards, are over there. So I do offer so many complimentary sessions. I say so many because they are limited each month, but I do have some availability for this month, and that's a 30-minute session. So if you want to take advantage of that, and I will pull out the sign-in sheet if you want to do that. So anything else?
One more
Yes.
quick question. What is the prevalence in today's business world of business cards being used?
The prevalence of them?
Are people heavily utilizing business cards, or would it be seen as a unique thing now?
It's not a unique thing. Interesting thing with business cards, they are still used. I think business cards will probably be always used because you're always going to have some people who are old school and they're just never going to let go of business cards. Now, what I see more and more, and this is what I do, when I get business cards, I usually scan them, or I have my assistant scan them. Because if I'm not careful, I will end up with this big stack of business cards, and it just gets annoying. So the most important thing, the people who I want to connect with, because sometimes you get business cards, and that's another issue with networking. You don't want to be that person just pushing your business card in people's hands or in their face, and especially if you have not even asked their name. Ask them how they're doing. I see that still happens. So will they be relevant? Yes, I would say so. And it also has to do with what you have on your business card. Your business card can really be a great marketing tool if you have the right information on your business card. I'm big on having people have a call to action on their business card. And that's whether you're in business for yourself or you work for someone else. Whatever you do, the clients that you want to attract, you want to have them do something. Maybe it's just sending you an email. Maybe it's a consultation. But tell them what to do. Tell them, and even on your business card, if you offer something, if you have a report, if you have a presentation that they can see at a different URL or something, you can put that on your business card. And another question that comes up a lot with business cards is, should you have your picture or not. There's different rules of thought out there. I am going to be adding my picture. I don't have my picture on my business card now. I think it can be a good thing to add your picture because for one, it helps people remember who you are. And especially, I mean, if you, all of you are nice looking folks, so why not include your picture? It is just a way of, allowing people to get to know you better, even if you're not nice looking, just get your picture.
Do you see a lot of success from the more unique angle on business cards? Like Kevin Mitnick is a internet security professional, and his business card is a piece of stainless steel, and they're lock picks. You can actually pull them off and use them to pick locks. And all it has is that in his name. It doesn't even have phone.
Yes. I've definitely seen some really interesting business cards. And again, it's a way of marketing. You do want to kind of strike a balance, though. You don't want it to be. I've seen some business cards that kind of get it wrong, or they go too far. I've seen business cards that are. I don't like funny shaped business cards, and I know people do that in terms of in the name of branding and being different. But if your business card is an octagon, I don't really know what to do with it. It
Right, yeah, it's got
eight sides, and then when I try to put it with my other cards, it doesn't fit, and it just annoys me. And then there are other cards where, like you said, I mean, you see all kinds of different material, but at the end of the day, you have to think practical. That's just like some people have cards on the really glossy paper or glossy material, but you can't write on that.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it looks pretty, but it's not really functional. People write a lot on business cards. They're taking notes. Again, that's how they remember you. So you kind of have to think of all of that. I would say, I mean, at the end of the day, you kind of err on practicality.
Right.
All right, well, I appreciate it. You guys have been a great audience, and you stayed perfect pretty much the whole thing. So,
Thank you, Rachel. And before everyone leaves, a couple of quick things. Let me just stop this.